Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Furqan bin Ahmad Nazri, and in this video, my group Ahmad Fitri, Aiman Muqri and Ahmad Fathi will be presenting our group project analysis of two Islamic banks.
Moving on to the background of both Islamic banks, starting with RHB Bank Berhad, formerly known as RHB Sakura Merchant Berhad. RHB Bank Berhad is one of the largest banks in Malaysia and currently operates in 8 countries within the Asian region with more than 14,000 employees. RHB Banking Group is a Malaysian fully integrated financial services group, and the group's core businesses are structured into 5 business pillars, namely Group Community Banking, Group Wholesale Banking, Group Sharia Business, Group International Business, and Group Insurance. RHB Islamic Bank is the Group Islamic's banking arm, established on 1st March of 2005, marking them as the first commercial banking group to have its full-fledged Islamic bank. RHB Islamic Banks offers a wide range of Islamic banking products and services through 4 business units, which are retail banking, corporate and investment banking, business and transaction banking, and Islamic treasury. Meanwhile, Malaysia Building Society Berhad (MBSB) was incorporated in Malaysia on 70th March 1970 under the Companies Act 1965. MBSB can be traced back to the Federal and Colonial Building Society Limited, which was established in 1950. It was renamed Malaya Borneo Building Society Limited (MBBS) in 1956, with the Malaysian government as the majority shareholder. MBBS was listed on the Stock Exchange of Malaya and Singapore in August 1963. Currently, Employees Provident Fund (EPF) is the major shareholder in MBSB, with 65.8% of shares issued. MBSB is the second largest standalone Islamic bank in Malaysia, with 47 branches within Malaysia. In addition, MBSB Bank Berhad, a wholly owned subsidiary of MBSB, was incorporated on 28th November 2005. MBSB Bank Berhad has been granted a license to perform Islamic banking business by Bank Negara Malaysia. It is supervised and regulated by Bank Negara Malaysia and the Islamic Financial Services Act 2013. Some of the Islamic banking products that are offered by MBSB Bank Berhad include Tawarruk by Bitaman Ajil, Ijarah, Mudharabah, and many more.
The Islamic banking product that we have chosen is Ijarah. Ijarah refers to a contract in which one party grants another party the right to use what he owns for a predetermined amount of time in exchange for a predetermined price. In a simple word, Ijarah is an Islamic leasing. There are 3 general elements of Ijarah, which are agreement, including offer and acceptance, contracting parties, which are the lessor and the lessee, and the last one is consideration. There are 3 types of Ijarah, which are operating Ijarah, Ijarah Muntahiyah Bitamlik, and Al-Ijarah Thumma Al-Bay' or ITAB. Operating Ijarah is a contract of lease where there is no ownership transfer at the end of Ijarah period. The customer has to return the assets to the bank at the expiration date. The example of assets used for operating Ijarah is assets that are expensive, such as airplanes and ships, where the lessee gets to use the assets without having to purchase at a higher cost. Ijarah Muntahiyah Bitamlik and Al-Ijarah Thumma Al-Bay' are both contracts where the ownership of the assets will be transferred to the lessee at the end of the Ijarah period. The difference between these 2 contracts is that Ijarah Muntahiyah Bitamlik allows the customer to choose whether the customer wants to exercise for the purchase of assets at the end of Ijarah period or not, while ITAB is a contract that obligates the customer to buy the assets at the end of the period. Both ITAB and Ijarah Muntahiyah Bitamlik will have a sale agreement at the end of the period.
There are several issues regarding the applications of ITAB within the Islamic bank. The first major issue is in the context of Sharia framework. In real-life practices, ITAB is expanding within the boundaries of the Hire Purchase Act, with sales of contract after the leasing period separating those 2 types of financial instrument. ITAB doesn't have Sharia compliance to govern it. Instead, it is governed by traditional or conventional legislation. Thus, This affects the user's certainty on ITAB implementation, which prompted the preference in conventional financial instruments that are commonly and widely used. The second issue is based upon the social perspective, whereby there is a lack of awareness from both parties of the Ijarah contract. This often occurs in Islamic banking product as it is relatively new compared to the conventional. Bank officers are unable to identify the significant difference between ITAB financing and traditional hire purchase financing. Hence, the promotion of Ijarah financing is restricted due to lack of knowledge from the bank's part. Besides, customers also avoid ITAB due to its process consuming more time as it involves more documentation, which refers to the additional akad agreement in the sales contract at the end of the leasing period.
My name is Muhammad Furqan bin Ahmad Nazri, and in this part, I will be presenting the basis of preparation for MBSB Bank and RHB Islamic Bank. Firstly, for the regulatory framework, both banks adopted the Malaysian Financial Reporting Standards, where they measure Ijarah financing using MFRS 9, MFRS 139 and MFRS 7. Secondly, both banks recognize Ijarah financing as an asset. But the only difference in the basis of preparation is in their measurement. MBSB Bank measures Ijarah at amortized cost, whereas RHB Islamic Bank initially measure it at fair value and subsequently at amortized cost. Next, for the functional presentation currency, both banks use Ringgit Malaysia, and both banks consider Ijarah financing as an asset for their disclosure.
This part is the presentation of Islamic financing for RHB Islamic Bank and MBSB Bank. For RHB Islamic Bank, the amount of gross Ijarah were decreasing throughout the year of 2017 until 2021. However, the proportion of Ijarah financing to total financing were decreasing. For MBSB Bank, gross Ijarah financing started with only 5 million during the year of 2017 and it increased to more than 1 billion during the year of 2018. Subsequently, it increased and decreased steadily until the year of 2021. However, when we look at the proportion of Ijarah to total financing, the percentage is very little, which is only around 5%. To compare, RHB Bank show a great difference in front of MBSB Bank in the amount of Ijarah financing. At the same time, the percentage of Ijarah financing to total financing show that RHB Bank has more than 10%, while MBSB Bank is only around 5% every year. Another positive part of RHB Bank is that the growth from the previous year to the current year is always increased. Meanwhile, the MBSB Bank shows a fluctuation in the growth of Ijarah financing. Now, for the last part, conclusion and recommendation. In conclusion, the current practice of Ijarah is inadequate to attract more clients to use it as mode of financing, due to almost indifferent in the practice of ITAB, which is Ijarah, Thumma Al-Bay, and higher purchase practice by conventional bank to Ijarah. In order to make a better practice of Ijarah financing in Islamic Bank, a more specified and restricted regulatory framework from upper bodies such as Bank Negara Malaysia should be reviewed to support the development of it. Such framework should have a significant difference from the conventional bank, especially the accounting treatment. And the next one is the lack of systematic implementation of Ijarah contract makes it difficult to their acknowledgement. Hence, and it affects the Islamic bank employers' awareness to their exposure to the clients. Hence, therefore, they should give more attention in providing a better service for Ijarah financing client, because an increase in demand for Ijarah financing will increase the bank performance and their market share of Ijarah financing and leasing compared to the competitors in conventional bank.